Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a Markdown document. A Markdown document is simply a convenient and well-formatted way of communicating the work you've done in RStudio or another programming language to a broad audience, for example in the form of a web page or in a PDF file. So let's go ahead and get started. In an earlier video I showed you how to create a .r script from the File menu here, coming up to File, New File, and then choosing R script. Today we're going to choose R Markdown. And as we're opening it up, it's asking us, and if, by the way, if you had to install some additional packages to use that, that's fine. You can click OK. We have to give it a name. Let's call it my Markdown file. And we can choose the output format. We can change this later. We can do HTML, which is a kind of web page format. We can do PDF, or we can do a Word file. I'm going to choose HTML and hit OK. All right, now you can see we've got something that kind of looks like a .r script, except it's a little different. You'll notice there's these kind of black areas, and then there's these kind of gray areas. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what the final product looks like, and then we'll go back and work through what these different parts are. So I'm going to hit knit here. Knit takes all this code and compiles it into a document here. So I'm going to save it on my desktop as my Markdown file. And here what you're seeing is what the final product will look like. I can put text in here. I've got a well-formatted title. And then here what you're seeing is the instructions that you're typing into R in the code editor, for example. And here you're seeing the output that you would normally see in the console. So in other words, this is a way of showing people what you did in coding and then what the output was. We can not only show the code, but we can show plots or other visuals that we make as well. So let's go back, now that we know what we're shooting for, let's go back and see what the actual Markdown file looks like. Up here we've got our title. We could change that and give it a different name. I love Markdown files. We could specify a different output here. We could say PDF instead of HTML. We can actually add a lot more options here. We're not going to do that for now, but for example, we can specify things like the line spacing and all sorts of the colors and all that kind of stuff. For now, we're just going to leave it as is. Now what you're seeing here is some kind of global options. You don't have to understand this too deeply. Basically what it's saying is by default, show both the code and the output of the code. That's what this echo equals true here. Echo means do you want to echo the typed out code and see it in the document as well. So just by default, it's going to do that unless we specify otherwise. So you can just always leave this at the top of your Markdown files if by default you want people to see both the code and the output. Now you'll see we have our first title here. If you recall from our document here, we had a section called our Markdown here. And you'll see it's a little bigger font and title. So you could say, you know, cleaning data or whatever you're doing here. And now you'll see we have some text, and the text is appearing beneath this title here. We have a link here. To specify a link, we can use these carets here and put the link in between. And then you'll see also here, sometimes we have these asterisks surrounding words. This here is turning it into a bold word here. If we want to use italics, we would just use one asterisk. There's a lot of different tricks in Markdown that you can learn. There's lots of great Markdown cheat sheets online that you can find to do all sorts of different formatting. But now what you'll see here is our first code chunk. This is right here in the final output here, summary cars. And you'll notice that anytime we have a code chunk, we have these three little single apostrophes here, these curly brackets, and then we have the language we want to write in, which is R. And then here, we're also loading in a data set. R ships with this data set about cars randomly. And so here what we're doing is summarizing different attributes from a data set that describe cars. And so here's what we're asking R to do, and that's appearing here. And if we were to run this here in our console, we'd get some output here, and that's what you're seeing over there. Always remember to put these three little apostrophe marks, otherwise R will turn everything into a giant code chunk, and when you go to compile or knit your Markdown document, it'll look pretty funny. Okay, same thing with plots. We've got another title here. We've got a description of what the plots are doing. This time, the author of this default sample file here has specified echo equals false within the curly brackets here. And that just means that we're only going to see the output of the code instead of the code and the output of the code. That's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and knit it one more time just so we can see what that looks like. And you'll see it's going to produce this same type of HTML document that we could save, upload, host on a web page, whatever. There you have it, our Markdown.